I turned 50 this year. That's right, 50 years of all of this. And a few days before my birthday, I had one of those long, epic dreams, which reminded me a lot of the play The Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams. But it was this weird Armenian, American, European version, and all the characters were older, like it was 20 years later. This makes sense, really, because, you know, I'm an Armenian American living in Europe, and The Glass Menagerie was part of my reading list in high school only a few years ago. To make matters weirder, in the dream, everyone kept talking about the animus and anima, the unconscious masculine and the unconscious feminine parts of our souls, respectively. That makes sense too, because I've spent the corona pandemic reading books by the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung and all these incredible, eye-popping, brain-splitting Jungian authors like Marion Woodman, Maureen Murdoch, and Marlene Shivy, my 3 M's. I have to share this story with you. Plus, the State Ministry of the Arts and Sciences where I live gave me a grant and told me if I don't share it with you, they'll take the money back. So, here goes. My dream's principal character is Laura Wingfield, the now married mother of 3 who has recently discovered she is a quarter Armenian and is therefore acquainted with survivor syndrome, loves Arabic music and swing, kibbeh, and cannolis. One summer, she met and accidentally fell in love with Jim O'Connor, the single, tech-savvy owner of a startup with a borderline personality disorder and an apartment in France in whatever metropolis people with this description normally live when they are from France. Actually, his real name is Je suis français, tu n'es pas français, donc tu parles avec un accent. Quand tu parles français, tu fais des fautes. Alors on va parler anglais parce que je n'aime pas tes erreurs ni ton accent. Ce n'est pas un problème pour toi, hein? Which is another way of saying, hi, I'm complicated. Whoa. Only Laura, who got caught up with, oh, his voice is so musical, didn't notice. She fell in love anyway. And after many years of marriage, of pleasing her self-appointed patriarch and bound in holy matrimony, a crazy little wild creature, which the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung called the unconscious masculine animus, woke up, let out a loud roar, and basically took over Laura. If music be the food of love, sing on, ever been acquainted with Laura from the play The Glass Menagerie? She first appeared in Chicago in 1944, then on Broadway a year later. A film version came out in 1950 and another one in 1987. Not great movies. I suggest you go and see the play. Iran has adapted its own film version of the play with names like Yalda and Reza, and an Indian version is called Akale. In the play, Laura's brother Tom describes Laura as crippled in conversation with his mother. She wears a leg brace. He describes her as peculiar. She spends a lot of time alone, either playing records on her Victrola, that wind-up record player, or playing with her glass menagerie, the glass figures which she collects, her favorite being the unicorn. These figures symbolize her frailty and her inner and outer beauty. Laura is a secretarial school dropout who prefers to go to the cinema or to the park because the mere idea of working for the great boss makes her so nervous she has to throw up. Which makes me wonder, do you think Harvey Weinstein made anyone throw up? Laura's course to become a secretary is something her mother has registered her for. Her father has abandoned them, leaving her with an inferiority complex and enough anxiety to make a pharmaceutical company executive drool. Her brother describes her as someone who may find it difficult to fit in with the world. The whole world? Really? And what about hours of playlists on Spotify that we have today? Don't we all love giving our lives a soundtrack? And Lego, and Pop Funko figures, much freakier than a glass menagerie. What's the big deal, Tom? How dare he describe her this way? To his credit, he does try to be her ally, but gives up and finally abandons his mother and sister, just like his father, to follow his dream of doing what he has always wanted to do. Meanwhile, we never really find out what Laura has always wanted to do, because her mother, who has never come to terms with her own broken dreams, is always deciding for her. I mean, in the play, Laura can't even make a wish on the new moon without asking her mother what she should wish for. And what is that? What should she wish for? How about wishing for the sky to kiss her while it's full of stars? How about wishing for her soul to spread its wings and soar through the night like it was finally going home, finally arriving where she knows she truly belongs? So still war die Nacht und meine Seele spannte weit ihre Flügel aus, flog durch die Sternenlander, als flöge sie nach Laura is interesting, but when I discovered her, which was in high school, I was terrified of her. I don't know if it was Tennessee Williams's intention to scare teenage girls, but she is so weak and fragile. Will she ever make it? And what was Williams trying to say? That being a unique woman is bad? That the play's gentleman caller, Jim O'Connor, will never love you if you don't conform to either living up to the career expectations of your pushy mom or living up to this male representative of reality who also represents the future? Because the future is not represented in Laura, that's for sure. She is in her early 20s when Jim visits their home, which does have an impact. He starts off being sweet and encouraging, giving her some good advice. Then he accidentally breaks her glass unicorn, okay, while dancing a waltz with her. Then he kisses her. Then he tells her he is engaged to another woman. And then he politely excuses himself out of her life. This is the hero of the play. And Laura is what? The loser? So in my dream, Laura recovers from all of this. It turns out, according to my dream, Laura has a cousin her age in New York City where everybody is welcome. And they've been writing back and forth. She's her mother's sister's daughter, her first cousin. Her name is Teresa, but everybody calls her Tessie. Laura tells her what happens with Jim and then with her brother, who both leave her feeling like abandoned, and her cousin becomes very concerned. Laura writes that she probably deserves these things because she can't get it together to be part of the greater world. She's too nice, she's too shy, she's too needy. Is that even true? Isn't Laura just creative, sensitive, reflective, caring, and careful? Right now, she's the person who observes her friends on social media and thinks, wow, everyone else seems to have it all together. Everyone else knows exactly what to say, what to wear, where to go, what to do. Everyone else seems so much happier than I am. How can that be? Greenfinch and linnet bird, nightingale, blackbird, how is it you sing? Oh, can you jubilate, sitting in cages, never taking wing? Outside the sky waits beckoning, beckoning, just beyond the to sing. If I cannot fly, let me sing. Tessie, Laura's cousin in Manhattan, flies to St. Louis, Missouri, and fills an empty suitcase with Laura's things, including the glass menagerie, minus the unicorn, which is now a horse because Jim broke it and gets to take it with him as a souvenir. Anyway, Tessie and Laura say goodbye to Amanda, Laura's mom, and return to Tessie's parents' place on the Upper West Side, just up the street from the Metropolitan Opera. So this is my dream, right? Let's do a close-up shot of Laura's mom here, Amanda Wingfield. Her husband left her years ago, but she has kept her married name for the sake of the children. When Laura and Tessie leave and she is alone in the apartment, Amanda gives in to some intense feelings. She sobs hysterically. This has been what you have always wanted for Laura, to be out there in the world, says her rational mind. Her heart, however, is like, what have you done? You let her go where? Amanda feels like she's been punched in the stomach. There are a lot of ancient myths about mothers and daughters being separated. The two I keep running into are from present-day Greece and southern Iraq. As early as 2600 BCE, moms pretty much lose it when their daughters are taken away. When Amanda can finally breathe somewhat regularly again, she sings this song she learned from her mother in the Mississippi Delta, where they were both born. The trees on the mountains are cold and bare. The summer just vanished and left them there like a false hurted lover, just like my own, who made me love him, then left me alone. The coals on the hearth have turned gray and sere. The blue flame just vanished and left them there like a false hurted lover, just like my own, who made me love him, then left me alone. Come back, oh summer, come back, blue flame, my heart once warming, my baby a name. Come back, please, come back, oh lover, come back, blue flame. Who wants a guy like that around? What kind of a damaged soul abandons his wife and children anyway? What if this man is the worst case scenario for her kids? What if, as we speak, he's snorting cocaine off a hooker's ass? God bless the woman who consents to having a man snort cocaine off her ass. But Amanda, do you really want a guy like that to come back? So what makes Amanda think she hasn't been better off without her husband? I guess her bank account. Amanda cries as much as she needs to, then tries to finish the alcohol her son has left behind, but she is not convinced her son's ways of dealing with the world are that great. Plus, the smell reminds her of bathroom disinfectant. One morning, Amanda finds herself writing sketches about a man who deserts his family to go to Mexico. Amanda has made a modest living selling magazine subscriptions over the phone and remembers that one client works for a publisher. When she has enough material, she contacts her and they meet. It's funny. It's good. The client pitches it to her boss. They are interested and print the stories under a male pseudonym. Amanda sells enough to make a pleasant living, laughing at the humiliating escapades she sends her ex into. When COVID arrives with the lockdown, Amanda begins buying her writing supplies online and hits it off with the Hermes parcel delivery guy who is close to retirement. They end up getting a place together near Wilmore Park, where Amanda sometimes swaps her pen for tennis rackets and fishing gear. She remains close to her daughter. So yeah, back to Laura. Tessie takes Laura under her wings, beginning with an Oprah-style makeover and a visit to Midtown's C.G. Jung Institute for a low-fee therapy referral, which both have amazing long-term effects on Laura. Tessie teaches her the ways of the city, introduces her to her friends, and shows her the best of NYC. Tessie and Laura become so inseparable that friends refer to them as Tesla. One night, they decide to get cheap seats to see Puccini's La Bohème at the glamorous Metropolitan Opera, which melts Laura's heart. She becomes a regular visitor and gets friendly with a ticket booth worker who tells her about a job opening in the administrative offices. She applies, Tessie helps, and is hired. Sometimes in the evenings, when someone calls in sick, she fills in at the gift shop. This is where she meets Francesco, a first-generation Italian who gets wide-eyed observing her dusting off the Swarovski crystal figures in the big vitrine next to the cash register. They date for a year, then he proposes to her on the first tier of steps inside the entranceway of the Met, opening night of a new production of Verdi's Otello starring Placido Domingo. She almost faints. Everybody claps when she accepts. It is a glorious moment. She quits her job, moves to Long Island, becomes a mother, volunteers at her kids' school library, and works odd jobs here and there, like assisting a sculptor down the street, which leads to him recommending her to the American Museum of Natural History when the dioramas have to be restored bit by bit during hours closed to the public. 20 years later, however, at another cousin's wedding, she locks herself up in the bathroom and sings the following aria, which swings from optimism to pessimism, then back to optimism, then should try to find a way to get along together, a way to make the world a singing happy place, full of laughter in the world that I grew up in. The streets were dark with misery and distress. The endless daily grind was too much for them. It took away all hope of happiness. When I was a girl, I remember I used to dream about a party dress to wear, but I never had a party dress. And I guess my dreams got lost somewhere. Nobody seemed to care. But when I grew up, I said I'll make it, for I believed there'd be a lucky star above me. In the fairy tales I read, the maiden always said, I know I'll find a fairy prince to love me. So I went wandering down the pavements of New York and through the roaring tunnels subways underground, hoping I'd discover some wonderful lover. Frank was the one that I found. Oh, on the day that we were married, I took a flower from my bouquet and I pressed it in a book and put the book away. Sometimes now I go and take a look. The flowers dry, the perfume's gone, the petals all turned gray. Oh, dream of love, should love turn out that way, should love turn out that way. But then the babies came, their little arms made a ring around Rosie about me. Yet as they grew older, they too seemed to grow away, until even Willie, my little boy Willie, seems he can get along without me. I don't know. It looks like something awful happens in the kitchens where women wash their dishes. Days turn to months, months turn to years. The greasy soap suds drown our wishes. There's got to be a little happiness somewhere, some hand to touch that's warm and kind, and there must be I always will believe there'll be a brighter day. Laura believes this. She makes a wish on the morning star going home from the wedding. Her role as wife has changed since her husband, Francesco, replaced passion for opera with passion for ice hockey. The company he works for will build the stadium to get the Islanders back to Long Island. Her role as mother has changed since the kids have grown up. She feels so unloved, so she wishes for love. She doesn't quite realize what she has wished for when not even a month later, she finds herself staring into the two shining eyes that smile back into hers. It's the new Jim O'Connor. His eyes are shiny because of the joint he has snuck in, but she has no experience nor any interest in anything that involves lighting a fire and inhaling in rapid succession. They meet through their kids. Maybe it's dropping them off at camp. Maybe it's at a mutual friend's barbecue. Conversation flows easily. First about the naming of their kids, then family history, then work, then their youth. It's special. She follows him on Twitter, then eventually they start sharing personal messages. Maybe this Jim O'Connor is lonely when he meets her. Manhattan can be lonely. And Laura is nothing like any of the women he usually, dates, hangs out with, but she's pretty and sweet. She talks about music, about opera. She seems smart, and he likes the way she likes him. He can tell, and she likes him a lot. She doesn't share this with anyone, not even Tessie. After only 2 or 3 conversations, her animus convinces her he's a better companion than Francesco. When Laura's friendship with Jim develops into an emotional affair, meeting him for breakfasts, lunches, or dinners, she imagines leaving her husband for him. Falling in love, according to some psychologists, is a complex. It is a special state of being, isn't it? It is fantastic when it arrives, but it is hellish if it doesn't work out, and then it's very painful to get rid of. Strange, dear, but true, dear, when I'm close to you, dear, the stars fill the sky, so in love with you am I. Without you, my arms fold about. falling in love is like drinking from the fountain of youth, because she didn't know that you could fall in love past 35, and she's almost 50. But, of course, on the other hand, when these new feelings take over, she's ashamed of herself, too, because she took an oath on her wedding day that she thought nothing would interfere with. So she begins cooking elaborate meals, ironing the laundry before putting it away, and deep cleaning the house. That's when she comes across this. She picks it up and remembers. When she gave birth to her first child, and it was a boy, her husband's grandmother knit her this blanket and comfort cloth and wanted to give it to her in person to congratulate her for having a boy. Would she have gotten anything if she'd given birth to a girl? So Laura asked her, "How come you don't like girls, Nonna? We're women." She said, "Laura, mia cara, it's not that I don't like girls. It's that this is a man's world we live in. And if you give birth to a girl, you are giving birth to pain and suffering in the service of men, because the world belongs to them." Laura sits there with this memory, the yellow material in her hands. And before she can switch gears, old feelings rise up from her core and take the form of tears streaming down her face. She has to ask herself for the zillionth time, is that me in pain and suffering in the service of men? She tries to bring this up in conversation with Francesco. He grunts between mouthfuls of linguine with clams in white wine sauce that she has learned to make from his mother, and then asks her, "Have you gotten any messages from our oldest son lately?" Right. So she texts Jim, and they get together to talk about it. Jim listens and appears thoughtful as always, then responds. And it's another intimate, revealing conversation that ends up at the #MeToo movement, also known in France as #Balance ton porc, which translates to squeal on your pig, which means denounce your aggressor. The movement has moved on to startups with #Balance ta startup and #MeTooInceste, which deals with child rape and incest in France. In a November 2020 poll, 1 in 10 people admitted to being victims of incest. What the fuck, France? Because if that's France, what about the rest of the world? Laura asks him if he read the letter signed by Catherine Deneuve and the other prominent women that was published in Le Monde in early 2018. He gets her a copy, and its English translation. She goes through it over and over. You know, the first few words make her nauseous each time. It reads, "Rape is a crime, but trying to pick someone up, however clumsily, is not. Rape is a crime, but..." What is the word "but" doing after the sentence, "rape is a crime"? I mean, how do you even read that? Rape is a crime! But, you know, let's try it in French. They say everything sounds better in French. Le viol est un crime. Mais it just doesn't work. There's nothing to say after that sentence. It's a full stop sentence. Le viol est un crime. Vergewaltigung ist ein Verbrechen. Părna paruciune, hansa corduciune. Rape is a crime, period. This would be a fine time to sing something in French, wouldn't it? How about another piece by Kurt Weill, a complaint song? The poet Maurice Malgré gives the River Seine a voice, and she starts to whine about all the disgusting shit that humans dump into her. Cannonballs, gold, corpses, aborted babies, bitter tears, human weakness, human injustice. Just turn it into a river of garbage. Complainte de la Seine, the Seine's complaint. Accueille la femme, accueille l'ivrogne, accueille le fou, mêle leurs sanglots, fruits de tes larmes, et porte leur cœur, et porte leur cœur, et porte leur cœur parmi les cailloux. Now, you may be wondering what this obsession is that I have with France. Let me just step out of character for a moment to tell you all, I would not be here today if it hadn't been for the French Marine Corps who saved my family from annihilation in 1915 in Armenian Musadagh. Look up the story if you don't know it already. I consider them to be my rescuers. Seriously, whenever I pick up a bottle of champagne or wine and read the words "product of France," my eyes fill with tears. Now back to Laura and the #MeToo movement. Laura looks down the list of women who have signed the letter denigrating the movement as spiraling into misandry, a hatred of men. Women accusing other women of hating sexuality. Their professions are listed next to their names. There are writers, professors, doctors. There's even a sexologist. Laura has to look that up. She gives it a lot of thought. These women who seem like powerful, empowered women signing a letter like this. She thinks she gets it. She imagines maybe these women are successful in the man's world because they were lucky enough to have this positive masculine presence in their lives, this energy that helped them from the inside and from the outside. These fathers' daughters who figured out how to get along and prosper even in this world. How fortunate is the woman who loves her daddy and has a daddy or any other father figure who loves her back in that healthy, supportive way we all dream about. Laura's father left her as a child. She could never sign such a letter. But she wouldn't publish a #MeToo story either. She can only tell Jim about these things. And the more she shares, the more he shares. And the more he shares, the more she's like, wow. Her Animus urges her on. Oh, finally, a man who makes you feel special. Now get that approval that you're starving for. Do what you can to make him love you so you can feel your worth in the world. Well, that just takes over and leads her to a dark place. Trying to please this man so he will love her the way she wishes, something he will never do. You can't expect love from out here to give you your worth in the world, Laura. He can't give her all of that, no matter what she does. How well she dresses, how well she nurtures, how empathetic she appears, how much money she makes, how athletic she becomes. She will be rejected. This rejection is what creates wicked witches. This negative shit, this inner imbalance is creating a path to despair. Have you ever listened to a witch's lament? It sounds like protection, but it's sad and manipulative. What did I clearly say? Children should listen. What were you not to do? Children should see and learn. Why could you not obey? Children should listen. What have I been to you? What would you have me be? Handsome like a prince? But I am old, I am ugly, I embarrass you. You are ashamed of me. You are ashamed. You don't understand. but wolves and humans too. Stay at home, I am home. Who out there could love you more than I? What out there that I cannot supply? Stay with me. Stay with me. The world is harsh and wild. Stay a child while you can be a child. With me. How does Laura fight off this negative voice? How does she not kill herself? If she doesn't do the inner work to get rid of it, she might. So, Laura reads this book, The Artist's Way, by Julia Cameron, recommended to her by a singer she gets to know at the Met. When she starts the inner work, which is painful, she asks herself, why can't I love myself? That's a tough question. I would tell her, how can you when you are not the hero of the story? She wants to ask Jim his opinion. But Jim is busy practicing the art of trusting the algorithms of dating apps as opposed to waiting for fate to lead him to the acquisition of a love object with the very specific look that causes enough arousal to experience the mechanics of release. Wait, what? Who is this guy that Laura falls in love with? Why does he talk like that? Is he drunk and trying to hide it? Or maybe it's the French deep learning translator app. Or is it that his business is deep tech? Deep tech. That sounds sexy, doesn't it? Who came up with that? Now all I hear about is the new virtual world Mark Sugar Mountain is building. Did you know that's his name translated into German? Sugar Mountain? Herr Berg des Zuckers is building the metaverse. Not so sexy. And I can't find one major player in its creation who is a woman. Cis women unite and get involved with the creation of the metaverse. Even if it is only to tell these he's, hims, and hises, this idea is crap. We might do that. Our role should not be passive in all things tech. I mean, in all things, but in all things tech. Now, stay with me here. This is a bit of a jump. But look, Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht explored the passive feminine and her partnership with a Nazi soldier in 1942 in a song called "And What Did the Soldier's Wife Receive?" Was bekam des Soldaten Weib aus der alten Hauptstadt Prag? Aus Prag bekam sie die Stöckelschuh, einen Gruß und dazu die Stöckelschuh. Das bekam sie aus der Stadt Prag. Und was bekam des Soldaten Weib? Aus Oslo über dem Sund, aus Oslo so bekam sie das Kräglein aus Pelz. Hoffentlich gefällt's, das Kräglein aus Pelz, das bekam sie aus Oslo am Sund. Und was bekam das Soldatenweib aus dem reichen Amsterdam? Aus Amsterdam bekam sie den Hut, und es steht ihr gut, der holländische Hut, den bekam sie aus Amsterdam. Und was bekam des Soldatenweib aus Brüssel im belgischen Land? Aus Brüssel bekam sie die seltenen Spitzen, ach, das zu besitzen, die belgischen Spitzen, die bekam sie aus belgischem Land. Und was bekam des Soldatenweib aus der Lichterstadt Paris? Aus Paris bekam sie das seidene Kleid, zu der Nachbarin Neid, das seidene Kleid, das bekam sie aus Paris. Und was bekam des Soldatenweib aus dem südlichen Bukarest? Aus Bukarest bekam sie das Hemd, so bunt und so fremd, das rumänische Hemd, das bekam sie aus Bukarest. Und was bekam des Soldatenweib aus dem weiten Russenland? Aus Russenland bekam sie den Witwenschleier zu der Totenfeier, den Witwenschleier, das bekam sie aus Russenland. Das bekam sie aus Russenland. In case you don't understand German, the soldier dies at the end. One case in point being, why should any human being end up a Nazi soldier? Where were the women when that happened? While we're on the subject of war, have you seen a missile lately? How many women do you suppose were at the table when that was first created? Women can give birth to babies who will grow up somewhere, and other grown babies can blow them up with their missiles. Back to Laura and Jim. Once his next online dating quest is clinched, Jim has time and energy to respond to Laura's texts. They share about their relationships. They listen well to each other, as always. Laura's soft, emotional style of giving is a forgotten comfort. She is daring in her giving. They talk about being born a man versus being born a woman. Laura admits to the idea of wishing she had been born a man. And Jim is openly relieved he is not a woman. He's had conversations recently with his friends over aperos on the difference in having sex with women who have and haven't had vaginal births. He pays attention to their claims, but he's not sure he really feels the difference. He has had to ask a woman, did you come? The woman has wondered, well, what did you think that was? Me at a singing lesson? Then he's not sure what use a woman has once she becomes infertile. He can keep having babies, though, if he wants, and he thinks he does. He is terrified of getting old. Maybe he misses being a kid, or maybe he misses being mothered, because maybe he wasn't mothered. For the time being, it's Laura filling that need. He wants to receive, and Laura wants to give. He doesn't trust giving, and she doesn't trust receiving. One day, she decides to ask what is going on. She tells him she's in love with him. Because isn't he showing signs they are more than just friends? Isn't all that attention he gives her proof of something special? He tells her what they have is special, but he is not attracted to her. No, she doesn't believe him. He tells her again and again. When she persists, as per her animus, that inner masculine energy, that this cannot be, he feels a victim himself. And then she gets angry. The rejections, the abandonment, the lousy treatment, the lack of primal bonding, of emotional bonding. She is furious with Jim. He loves all these others. Why not her? And she is furious at her husband. If he loved her properly, none of this would be happening. And then, finally, it surfaces. She is deeply angry with her father. What kind of damaged soul? She even dreams about it. Like this one time, she dreams she's a pirate and she destroys an entire coastal town with her ship. Meine Herren, heute sehen Sie mir Gläser aufwaschen und ich mache das Bett für jede. Und Sie geben mir einen Penny und ich bedanke mich schnell. Und Sie sehen meine Lumpen und dies lumpige Hotel. Und Sie wissen nicht, mit wem Sie reden. Und Sie wissen nicht, mit wem Sie reden. Aber eines Abends wird ein Geschrei sein am Hafen und man fragt, was ist das für ein Geschrei? Und man wird mich lächeln sehen bei meinem Gläsern. Und man fragt, was lächelt dies dabei? Und ein Schiff mit 8 Siegen und mit 50 Kanonen wird liegen am Kai. Man sagt, geh, wisch deine Gläser, mein Kind, und sie reichen mir ein Penny hin. Und der Penny wird genommen und das Bett wird gemacht. Der wird keiner mehr hier wohnen in dieser Nacht. Und sie wissen immer noch nicht, wer ich bin. Und sie wissen immer noch nicht, wer ich bin. Aber eines Abends wird ein Getös sein am Hafen und man fragt, was ist das für ein Getös? Und man wird mich stehen sehen bei meinem Fenster. Und man fragt, was lächelt die so bös? Und das Schiff mit 8 Siegen und mit 50 Kanonen wird beschießen die Stadt. Und dann werden kommen 100 Mittag am Land und werden in den Schatten treten und fangen einen jeglichen vor jeglichen Tür und stehen in Ketten und bringen vor mir und fragen, welchen sollen wir töten? Und fragen, welchen sollen wir töten? Sie mich sagen hören, alle! Und wenn man der Kopf fällt, dann sag ich, hoppla. Und das Schiff mit 8 Segen und mit 50 Kanonen wird denn schwinden mit mir. That was Jenny from the Three Penny Opera, also by Kurt Weill, words by Bertolt Brecht. Wow, she is really in touch with her shadow personality. That sounds like many women each month before menstruation begins. And this is not a put down. It's normal for women to experience a bit of darkness before the blood runs. No need to make a grimace or get all grossed out. No need for meds or avoidance. This is woman, and it is perfectly okay. Just accept it. So many feelings. For Jim O'Connor, the feelings of an individual woman are not so important. In the case of Laura, the most important fact is not that she feels love for him, it is that she is married. She's another man's possession. Patriarchy over passion. That's what I always say. Anyway, he has cultivated a terrific pattern through dating apps so that if one relationship fails, there is an overlap with something new almost immediately, like a fugue. He tells Laura about the new woman he is seeing, who he hopes to impregnate simply because he can. He believes he and Laura can remain friends. Laura cannot take it. She politely excuses herself out of his life. That is Spain without the S. That hurts, but that's who they are at that time. It takes just over 9 months for Laura's rage and grief to taper off. She begins by telling Tessie everything. Tessie hugs her for a very long time and comes to see her every Friday. Laura then works to get back into her body. Pilates, ballroom dancing, anything she can do to release her anger and her sadness. She goes back to the Union Center for a new referral. She gets help seeing the gaping hole inside herself where love should be. In her case, love she never got from her father. She learns how to channel the love she believed was meant for this man, Jim, inward until eventually she gives herself her own blessing for being imperfect, for being honest, for getting hurt, for getting angry. She fills that hole herself. Her animus calms down. She sees that she and her husband have been raised to see the needs of his as being more important than the needs of hers. Now she begins to demand all that she believes she deserves. He's like, where did my wife go? She wants to return to Manhattan and finds a room in an apartment share in the Lower East Side. She sees that her mother and her brother did their best. She thinks about all that she loves, her family, music, shiny glass figures, sculpture. She signs up for pottery classes, then moves on to one making porcelain. Her themes are based on the yin and yang and on chiaroscuro, mixing the light with the dark. She begins a small business on Etsy selling her work. It gets quite popular. She has moved on, but she still thinks about Jim O'Connor and the catalyst that he became for her to transition towards self-love. Imagine this man, this representative of the future, showing up sober and as a man with heart, not breaking anything, and gently asking, "What ails thee? What's wrong?" Some of us might answer, What's wrong? What's wrong is you're a bloody fucking idiot. That's what's wrong. Laura would not do that. She has spent all this time trying to figure out how to bless herself. Laura would go quiet, and then she would ask for his blessing. Tell Laura. Tell crippled, peculiar, timid, anxious, magical Laura, the collector and lover of music. Tell her she is enough as she is. So she becomes the hero of this story. And that's how my dream ends. Stop worrying where you're going. Move on. If you can know where you're going, you've gone. Just keep moving on. I chose and my world was shaken. So what? The choice may have been mistaken. The choosing was not. You have to move on. Look at what you want, not at where you are, not at what you'll be. Look at all the things you've done for me. Opened up my eyes, taught me how to see, notice every tree, understand the light, concentrate on now. I want to explore the light. I want to find how to get through to something new, something of my own. Move on. Stop worrying if your vision is let others make that decision. They usually do. You keep moving on. Look at what you've done, then at what you want, not at where you are, what you'll be. Look at all the things you gave to me. Let me give to you something in return. Look into my eyes and the color of my hair and the way it catches the light and the care and the feeding. it come from you, then it will be new. Give us more to see.